So our first speaker, first non-Richardson speaker today, is the 8th in our recent series of local faith leaders discussing the directive to love our neighbors. Please welcome back to Justice Southbury, retired Methodist Pastor John Thomason. Woo!
Okay. Can you hear me? Yeah. Thank you, Rick. I am so honored to be here, and more specifically, have the opportunity to honor Rick. And there are it. I'm honored to be here and to have the opportunity to honor Rick and Julia on this milestone day for their imagination and conviction and perseverance over these past 5 years. Ask any passerby on this busy intersection just off of exit 15, and they would recognize the term Good Samaritan and be able to describe its meaning. A Good Samaritan is a person who helps or rescues someone in distress, often a total stranger. The term originates, of course, from a parable told 2,000 years ago by Jesus of Nazareth. Now, it's instructive to look at the context of this parable, the verbal exchange that precedes it. A Jewish lawyer asked Jesus what he must do to inherit eternal life. Jesus simply invites him to summarize what he already knows, the requirements of the Torah. The lawyer quotes from the Shema, the Hebrew confession of faith. Love your God with all your heart, soul, strength, and mind. Then he cites a commandment from the book of Leviticus, and love your neighbor as yourself. Jesus quickly affirms the man's answer. Yes, this is the right path to eternal life. But the lawyer is not quite satisfied, so he poses another question. Who is my neighbor? That's a fair question and an important one. He seems to be saying, okay, we have this generalized directive to love our neighbor, but I need specifics. Just who is my neighbor? It's in response to this second question that Jesus tells the parable of the Good Samaritan, the details of which are familiar to many of you. A man is mugged, robbed, and left for dead on the side of a road. 2 highly religious Israelites see him lying there, but pass him by. They are either too busy or just don't want to get involved. A third person, who happens to be a Samaritan, comes to the rescue of this injured man. The crucial point here is that Samaritans are physical neighbors to Israelites. But Samaritans are viewed by them as total aliens because they are racially and ritually impure. And yet it is a Samaritan who is the hero of this story, who sees this helpless victim as his neighbor and who does the neighborly thing in a crisis situation. This is Jesus' indirect but profound answer to the lawyer's question, who is my neighbor? Friends, I confess that I am haunted by that question. I'm constantly forced to ask myself that question as I interact with people who are not my own flesh and blood and are as different from me as an ancient Samaritan was from an Israelite. Who is my neighbor? What's more, I believe this is the most important question facing the United States of America in the year 2025. When I was growing up in the 1950s in South Texas, I identified my neighbors purely in terms of proximity. My neighbors were the people who lived next door to me or on the same block. On one side was Mrs. Fairbert, who was a crabby and intimidating old woman. But she was a member of my church, so I had to be nice to her. On the other side was my best friend and constant playmate, Paul Caffey. Directly across the street was Hazel Montgomery, an elderly widow who hired me to mow her lawn on a regular basis and once let me watch a World Series game between the Yankees and the Dodgers on color TV. These were my neighbors, the people who lived close to me and who, by the way, were mirror images of my own race, religion, and value system. Over the years, my definition of neighbor began to widen as I was exposed to a wider range of people, and as I began to take more seriously the message of the parable of the Good Samaritan. I am to regard as my neighbor any human being, especially any human being in need, no matter how different they are from me. Why? Not because I'm a bleeding heart liberal, but because all people are children of God. Now, it seems that this mandate is being opposed at every turn in America today. In many circles, those who are different, or God forbid, foreign, are seen as the other rather than as the neighbor. The hospitable pronoun we is being replaced by us versus them. This scenario is being played out on Main Street and, yes, on Pennsylvania Avenue. The terms diversity, equity, and inclusion are now seen as dirty words and taboo policies. It's apparent that America First means that one-time neighbors are now regarded only as competitors or even as adversaries, and long-time adversaries are being embraced as neighbors as long as they serve American interests. One moment, the President of the United States sounds and acts like an isolationist, the next moment like an imperialist. Either way, it's not very neighborly. Curiously enough, the political policy America First is being defended by invoking a doctrine of the Roman Catholic Church, Ordo Amoris, a Latin phrase that translates to order of love or order of charity. Vice President J.D. Vance, himself a Catholic, recently interpreted the doctrine in these terms. You love your family, and then you love your neighbor, and then you love your community, and then you love your fellow citizens in your own country. And then after that, you can focus and prioritize the rest of the world. I mean, what a perfect rationale for America First. As people often say, charity begins at home. The problem is that despite our stated intentions as a nation, charity can remain at home and let the rest of the world be damned. America First can degenerate into America only. It's no wonder that Pope Francis issued a kind of rebuke to the Vice President's interpretation of Ordo Amoris. The true Ordo Amoris is found in the parable of the Good Samaritan, he said, by meditating on the love that builds a fraternity open to all without exception. Christian love is not concentric expansion of interests that little by little extend to other persons and groups. One of my heroes on the American religious scene, Martin Marty, died last month at the age of 97. Marty was a preeminent church historian, a scholar of astounding breadth who wrote more than 60 books, and also a keen observer and sometime critic of contemporary religion and society. Before he died, he was surely aware that the words diversity, equity, and inclusion had become swear words. But as one of Marty's many friends and admirers noted after his death, for Marty, the only real swear word was tribalism, watching out for my interest, my family, my town, my country, my tribe, at the expense of others. Everyone, and he meant everyone, deserves a seat at the table of public discussion, as long as they're willing to play by the rules of civility and reasoned examination of the evidence. Friends, that's as good an answer as I can imagine to the question, who is my neighbor? Everyone. And it's the answer you have given 250 times in this very place, as you have opposed tribalism and advocated for those who are denied a seat at the table of public discussion. I pray that it's 250 and counting, because your voice needs to be heard like never before. The headline article in today's New York Times began with the words, "The silence grows louder every day." The article went on to describe how countless people in positions of authority, from civil servants to politicians to college presidents, are hesitant to speak out about the avalanche of new government policies for fear of retribution, which one scholar warns is a sign that we have crossed the line into some form of authoritarian state. In sum, the Times article said, there is a chill spreading over political debate in Washington and beyond. On this cold day in March, I give thanks that the chill of silence has not spread to this street corner in Southbury. Thank you.